Mere Conservatism.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Mere Conservatism. It's David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker. David and I, we produce this program at different times, and we had the option of doing this program before the presidential debate, the last one, or after. And
we went with after, especially after the way the first one went. Now, debate number 3, this was technically debate number 3.
Yeah, technically.
Was a little bit more palatable than debate number 1. Debate number 2
a little bit
didn't
more
happen. Yeah, just a little bit more palatable, don't you think?
A little bit. Oh, my goodness. I was so proud of the Trumpster.
Well,
and I say proud of him because I know everything in him just wants to just cut loose and let go and do what he did.
In all honesty, it would have been nice had he been able to do this at the first debate. Been a little bit more under control.
Yeah, he should have.
He really shot himself in the foot.
There's no excuse. He could not restrain himself. And this time, and I believe it was under the advice of a lot of folks around him, they were saying, listen, you got to restrain yourself. And the good thing about restraining himself, David, and I think you'll agree, it allowed Joe Biden to come through as the Joe Biden we all know and love.
So what did I say a couple weeks ago?
What
Donald
did you
Trump
say?
needs one of 2 things to happen to win. Mm-hmm. One of those things is that he needs to get the attention off himself just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And when he's at a debate and he doesn't shut up, that's not how you do that.
No.
So he was different in debate number 3.
Yes.
He allowed Joe to speak. He allowed Joe to really hang himself on a couple points. First of all, Joe was quite dishonest.
Oh.
He told some whoppers.
Big whoppers.
And he also said some things that I don't think he was supposed to say.
No, I think he went off script. You're right, because he had his points before him because he was constantly looking down and referring to them. And I think sometimes he strayed off of that. And when he strayed off of that and he really heard what he was thinking, it wasn't good.
And what's funny, Cleve, is that we're talking about the debate right now, and we waited to record the broadcast until after the debate. But I don't actually think the debate is the biggest story that's going on right now.
It's not. It just so happens, though, to me, it happened when the biggest story is going on. Mm-hmm. And it made a perfect backdrop for the debate. Whatever else they were discussing, that was the big 400, 500, 600-pound gorilla in the room. But now, of course, former business partner of Hunter Biden, Tony Bobulinski. If that's the way.
Nice try, Cleve.
Thank you. When I saw that name and when I first heard that name, I hate to say it, but it sounded like one of those names from the you would hear in a mob type situation. Yeah, Tony Bobulinski is a good old man. He's a good guy. You gotta like him. Anyway, I do like him. He read a statement ahead of Thursday night's presidential debate. In that statement, Bobulinski asserted that the Bidens were looking to profit off of their name with the Chinese, and that the former vice president knew everything about Hunter Biden's dealings. Here's what he had to say, part of it.
On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face. In fact, I was advised by Gillier and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
This is a humongous accusation.
Ooh.
If some of the things that they're saying about Joe Biden and his family are true, then it is the biggest scandal ever.
Yes. In the real world,
the biggest political scandal ever.
In the real world, I mean, the media and TV would be all over this. In the real world, in a world where there was actual reportage. Okay. So, I mean, the thing that amazes me is I was kind of concerned, David. I said, okay, we got the laptop. And they were already working to discredit the laptop, the mainstream media and others, trying to say, yada, yada. But when this guy comes out.
Now we have corroboration.
Yes. And not only
this is totally separate from the laptop that week. So now we have the laptop and we have this witness, this guy.
And it's not just his words, because he says, I happen to have the phones that the texts were used in the exchange on this stuff.
And he's on some of the emails.
Right.
So he has copies of some of the emails that were on the laptop that is supposedly Russian disinformation. Let me just mention real quick.
Okay, sure.
One of the tactics used by the media and the left here is they're saying that this stuff is Russian disinformation. Mm-hmm. This is a lie. Joe Biden repeated the lie during the debate last night. It is an absolute lie. The head of intelligence, the United States, said this is not Russian misinformation. That's not what this is. This is not coming from Russia. This is something else.
Yes.
So that is a total, complete lie. That's not true.
It's their go-to, and it has been.
Well, they have they have to say something, and all they need is for enough people to just write it off once they hear that it's from Russia. It is not from Russia. This is real. This stuff is real. And by the way, the Biden campaign won't even deny that a lot of the emails are legit.
They have never denied that.
I think that they may have denied that that Joe did anything wrong. Okay?
No, what Joe said was, I have never taken money from a foreign country like Russia or anything, which is not the same thing,
And we mentioned this a little bit last week, which is the media and big tech is covering this up.
Whew.
Twitter still has banned the New York Post Twitter page. They can't post. They're being asked to retract the story, which they won't because it's a good story. And they've done good work on it. So Twitter is doing that. They're still limiting its reach. Facebook is limiting its reach. Many news outlets, NPR and various other news outlets are saying they're not going to cover this because it's nothing, and they're just not going to go there. Cleve, it's sinister. It's dangerous the way that they are censoring this and the way they're just covering it up.
Well, to me, David, in my humble opinion, that story is even bigger than the main story. The story of the Biden's corruption is bad.
You're saying the cover-up is...
But the cover-up by the mainstream media, by the mainstream papers, and even the social media or Twitter and Facebook, that is the story.
I think that's true because of how it can affect our lives. I think that because, the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden story is bad. Does it really affect us? I mean, we don't want to see that corruption in our government, but does it really affect our day to day? Probably not. But the way that the media and social media and big tech is covering it up does affect our day to day, because what else will they cover up? What else will they lie to us about?
And so you and I are simpatico about regulations on businesses. We don't like a lot of regulations on businesses. I don't want to see that. But when you have a business as large as Twitter, as Facebook, and as Google, and you give them carte blanche to operate, and they do this, I'm sorry. You got to haul their behinds before Congress big time and get something done.
It's making the position of no regulation and a hands-off approach to this stuff, it's making that position almost indefensible.
I agree.
What they're doing.
And again, to hear you say that, and even to hear me say that, I thought I would never feel that way. Mm-hmm. Because, again, we are for freedom of expression. We're for as few regulations as possible, okay? But you cannot let these guys do this.
As a conservative, I want law enforcement, and I want just laws to be on the books. So if they're breaking a law, I think some people need to look very carefully to see if any laws are being broken. And if they are, they need to be dealt with severely and swiftly. We may need to break them up.
Yes.
And again, that's not something I typically say. Now, here's my hypothesis about this whole thing when it comes to Joe Biden.
I'm curious to hear this.
The media, they don't want to touch this. They don't want to do anything that might jeopardize Joe Biden's chance of winning an election in a week and a half or 2 weeks.
Right.
They're not going to touch it. What they might do, this is what I think they may do. As soon as he wins, as soon as Joe Biden wins the presidency, they blow this story open.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that they can ignore it forever.
Right. Well,
I think that they're going to try to push it off as long as they can. He's going to win. They're going to blow the story open.
That's their plan.
And he will be inaugurated as a lame duck. He will be inaugurated, and then he'll resign. Kamala Harris will be president. This is what they want to happen, because
the reason I agree with you is because, to me, that was their plan long before this bombshell fell, to get him out of there once he was elected. Once he got across the finish line, he was not going to serve any time as an actual president.
I think they're hoping just to get him across the finish line of the election, get him inaugurated, and then scandal will take him down, and that's fine, because they don't care about Joe.
They don't. They'll throw anybody under the bus, but
he's a vehicle.
They won't have to go to
power.
They won't have to go to scandal if they do what I think they really want to do, which is really declare him mentally unfit for the job. And once that's declared, he can be excused in a lot of people's minds for a lot of things. And that's the other thing, the sympathy factor that he's starting to get. All right, so that's out there. That's the bombshell. And David, the thing that amazed me is I was expecting an October bombshell from the Democrats. You know, we've had bombshell after bombshell. I thought they were going to wait and hold it. And it still may happen. It still may have something.
And I will say, you know, a lot of times when things like this happen, we question the timing.
Yeah.
And the timing is quite curious.
Yeah.
Apparently, the FBI had this stuff in December.
Right. But the timing is not something that, to me, the Republican Party did not plan this. I don't see the Republican Party doing this.
It doesn't seem like it because Rudy Giuliani apparently only had it for a couple of days before he turned it over to the Delaware law enforcement.
If anything, the Republican Party was telling them to hold back on stuff like this, investigating the Ukraine, and keep that out of the thing because they felt that was a negative as far as the campaign was concerned. So to me, this is happening, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I think this is a providential thing, the timing of this.
Well, Cleve, I mean, it may not work.
Well, when I say
Joe Biden might win this election.
What I'm saying is, I think it's providential for one thing. Number one, I don't think he's going to win the election. You and I have kind of parted ways on the probability of Trump's reelection. I think Trump is going to be reelected and would have reelected before this. But to me, this had to come out now because when Trump is reelected, all the stuff that we thought that everybody got away with, they will not get away with. And that has been my prayer and the prayer of many people for a long time. If they get away with it, we're already undone. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that this is a sign, by the mercy of God, that the rogues are going to be, they've been outed, and they're going to be dealt with. Because once you get one, you'd be surprised how many other people are willing to sell out to get a better deal. And thank you, Mr. Bobulinski, for stepping up, you know, because this guy, hopefully he's got good protection because he's got the goods on him. He's not the smoking gun, he's the smoking bomb, okay? He's got it.
Well, if he had stuff on Hillary,
maybe he'd be gone by now.
Yeah, he would have taken himself out a long time ago.
A long time ago. Okay, so during the debate, a couple of things we'll look at real quickly. Of course, we're talking about the fact, and I was so glad that I knew Trump would, that he was going to bring it out if she hadn't. By the way, I want to say the moderator was not as bad as I thought she would be.
She was great. I thought she was. I thought she was really good. She helped Biden a little bit.
You could see that
she saved him. I can think of one time specifically she saved him when Trump was pressing Biden on this scandal stuff a little bit.
Right.
I think that she bailed him out by moving on, similar to the way Chris Wallace did.
I agree.
During the first debate. But I think for the most part, she was fine. And I think that the reason that she looked a lot better than Chris Wallace is because Trump behaved himself. To be frank with you, I think that Trump's behavior led to bad behavior from Chris Wallace in the first debate.
I agree. I know. Listen, I put it all on Trump, and somebody got to him and said, "You can't do that again. We cannot have a repeat of your attacking this guy like you were doing." So he attacked him all right, but did to the right. One thing he did, he criticized Biden for his plans to address the coronavirus pandemic.
All he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying.
You know, that's all Biden really has. If need be, I'll shut it down. I mean, I'll follow the science. And if the science says shut it down, I'll shut it down. And I'm glad Trump harped on that because I believe that the majority of people in this country do not want another lockdown, David.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
I don't know when I listen to Joe if it's just my perspective that's making me think this, but and so I try not to hold on to it too tight because, I'm not unbiased.
Okay.
But Joe Biden is not credible on the coronavirus stuff.
All right. Why? Why do you say that?
Well, for one reason, I remember when this started because I'm an adult. I can remember things that happened 6 months ago.
Okay.
And Joe Biden was criticizing Donald Trump for shutting down the border. I mean, it's one of the first things that happened when before we even really knew how serious this was. Trump shut down travel to China, and I thought to myself, well, that seems kind of extreme. I did. I mean, I thought,
he was
wow.
the only one. He was the only one.
Nobody else was
pushing
calling for that. Nobody was saying that was something that was necessary. I thought to myself, well, that's a bold step to do that. And I wasn't mad at him about it, but I just thought, that's a big deal to do that. He did the same thing with Europe a few weeks later. But Joe Biden criticized him for that. So that was sort of the opening salvo. If you wanted to discuss who was taking this seriously and who wasn't, that is kind of the first thing. The second reason it's hard for me to for Biden to be credible on coronavirus is that he's not really suggesting doing anything different than what Trump is already doing.
He's just regurgitating it, as a matter of fact, as if it were his idea.
Right. He's not. He actually isn't proposing anything different. He's saying, listen to the scientists over and over and over again.
I'd follow the science.
And also he's saying, I'll talk to the governors. Hey, Joe, you can't force a mask mandate. So what are you going to do? Oh, I'll talk to people.
Yes.
I'll ask them nicely.
By the way,
okay, that's your plan.
Yeah.
So he's not credible on this. Some people might find him credible. I would think, my mind wants to tell me that people that just hate Donald Trump, they hate what happened with the coronavirus, they blame Donald Trump, so they'll go with anybody else. But Joe is not really offering anything substantial on coronavirus.
I got to say this. I say it every time, but I got to say it because I think it's very significant. When I look at Biden and when I listen to him, I don't know what they have him on, what kind of medication they're treating him with, whether it produces drowsiness sometimes or lapses or just doesn't do the job it's supposed to do. But I still so easily see in this man a guy who can barely hold it together mentally. And it elicits a sort of sympathy from me, except for what he represents, the threat he represents to this nation. And I saw it again during the debate. There were moments where he was looking down, trying to get his notes together or whatnot. And there were times when I said, he's out of it.
He's asleep.
Yeah.
I thought he was asleep a few times.
Yeah, no, you saw, and because you even texted me about that. And so to me, that's still a matter that this is one of the reasons why what the Democrats are doing is so insidious, because they know that this guy is not going to be able to be a president. Yeah. And yet they're just using him.
Unlike what a lot of people have said and think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the coronavirus stuff is actually a plus for Donald Trump, because when he talks about it, I find it inspiring and encouraging.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a good thing. Now, I'm not going to pretend. I mean, it's not a good situation.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that last night, one thing I noticed about Donald Trump is that he seemed to know what he was talking about.
Yes. He had a firm grasp on
He
the
wasn't
facts.
going crazy. You know, it wasn't like the first debate. He actually, and he's not eloquent or anything. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is he's president. Mm-hmm. He's been handling this and he's been doing this. He kind of knows what he's talking about. And I appreciate him saying things like, we have to learn to live with this virus.
Yeah.
We can't hide. I can't hide in the Oval Office.
Like you hid in your basement?
Yeah. People, Joe, can't just hide in their basement. Yeah. They have to live their lives. Yeah. That's a great line.
It was.
And he says, we have to learn to live with this. And it's inspiring. Joe turns around and says, we're dying with it. We're heading up to a dark winter.
A dark winter. We've got a dark winter coming.
Joe's tone on it is really very, very negative and scary and all that stuff. And so I actually, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the coronavirus stuff is a plus for Trump. I can't help but think that the way he's handling it is good for a lot of people. They need that positivity.
You know something? I hadn't thought of it that way until you started bringing it out, and I'm tending to agree with you, because what Trump, whatever issues he has, okay, he's a positive person. He has boundless optimism. And even when they were trying to make hay about the fact that he wanted to not over sensationalize the virus and everything, it was because he knew, I felt, whatever happens, we've got to go through this.
Yeah.
We cannot retreat from it. We've got to go through it. We've got to deal with it.
People are still criticizing him for saying we'd like to be back up by Easter. He said that. Yeah. People got mad at him about that, but I'm like, you wouldn't like to be back up by Easter? Why are you mad at him for saying that? And they're still mad at him for saying that.
Well,
we were told 2 weeks to slow the spread, and it should have been over by Easter. It didn't end up that way. But I'm not upset with the president of the United States being optimistic and encouraging when it comes to this kind of thing. I don't know why people don't like
Traditional politicians are very careful because the last thing they want is to do anything they feel that will cost them the support of constituencies. And so the Democrats, they're the ones who operate by the fear factor. Biden didn't invent this. The Democrat governors are doing the very same thing.
I don't think only Democrats do that.
I think they do it more than anybody else. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
The Democrats, the liberal philosophy itself is all about your feelings. Okay.
It's also about government taking care of you.
Right. But feelings of insecurity makes you want government to take care of you. So they got to keep people afraid. They got to keep them angry. They got to keep them frustrated. They got to keep them feeling hopeless. That type of dystopian atmosphere, David, works for liberal and progressive philosophy.
They need people looking to them for help.
And they need to justify it. Say, government, I need you. I can't make it without you. And here's Trump saying, no, we need to release the ability of the American people to take care of themselves, whether it's their Second Amendment rights or whatever. We need to make sure that we understand that that responsibility ultimately is in the hands of the citizens. What a novel idea. You know what I'm saying? That ultimately it's up to us and not the high up mucking and mucks.
I like that. In a lot of states, like in my home state, that has been the practice for months and months and months when it came to coronavirus, because our governor,
I loved it,
Brian Kemp,
he got a lot of heat for it.
He opened up and he said, be smart, don't go crazy, be smart, but we got to live our lives, we got to keep the economy going. You need to go to your job, those kinds of things, and things have been okay in Georgia.
Yes.
One interesting thing, Biden kept hitting on a theme. He stole it from Obama. He tends to do this. He kind of plagiarizes. But he did this no red states, no blue states thing. He's been doing this. I'm a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be president for everybody. All serious and nice and stuff. Well, I found it real funny that he said, I don't see us as blue states and red states like he does. I don't do that. But the places that are really bad right now, they're the red states. In the same sentence, he totally contradicted himself.
In the same breath,
he was like, "Yeah, I don't see red states and blue states, but the red states, they stink."
But that's what Biden does all the time. He does it all the time.
Biden he's really bad about lying, but he's not a bad liar. And the reason he's a good liar, he's good at it, because I don't think he knows he's lying.
Well, now that may be point of it.
He has been a politician for so long. That it just rolls off his tongue. He's done this. This is not new. Well, he's been doing this for years and years and years.
But the other reason he's such a quote-unquote good liar is because he knows, like every liberal Democrat knows, he'll never be called to account for any statement he makes by the media. So basically, just say it.
Yeah, you're right. And so when he says a lot of different stuff, he takes different positions, he lies, he changes his mind. He says things that are absolutely false, and then he'll change positions, like on fracking.
Oh, my goodness.
So, Cleve, when was he lying? Was he lying when he said he'll get rid of fracking, or was he lying when he says he'll keep fracking?
I love it.
I mean,
I love it. We've got the video.
I actually think, I was watching the debate, and I'm thinking to myself, Pennsylvania is a huge swing state, and this might have cost him Pennsylvania. Because Pennsylvania right now is close enough that this kind of thing could really swing it.
If this doesn't cost them Pennsylvania, then I'll say the race is already lost. But he's just in that statement. Well, I think I got a little exchange about that. Let me see about Biden and Trump on that.
Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
And here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy.
So my point is, he's got him on record of saying that basically
we're gonna start to trend it down.
Whatever the timing is, my plans are to get rid of you.
And I don't think people in that industry want to hear that, Cleve. What do you think?
Oh, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But the point is, give Trump credit for going there and not letting him get away with just making some pithy statement. Biden is on record.
And he's in the background going, "Oh, that's interesting." Yeah.
And
I love that.
And if you're in Pennsylvania or any of the other places where fracking and stuff is a thing, you hear that. If that doesn't tell you, I can't vote for this guy.
Well, and it's not just fracking. See, so he's talking about fossil fuels. He's talking about oil. He's talking about a lot of different things.
Yes.
This is a guy who wants net zero emissions by, what is it, 2025 or 2035?
Some ridiculous
It's
thing.
pretty close.
Yeah.
It's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Net no emissions means a lot of electric cars on the. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to do it.
No.
But besides that, if he's going to attempt it, it's going to be radical.
Yeah.
In order to do it in that amount of time, this is not a thing where 50 years down the line, maybe some of this stuff starts to disappear and get scaled back, and it naturally happens. No, he's talking about the government forcing oil and gas and fracking is natural gas, out. So it's a real problem for him in places that produce energy, and there are several swing states that do just that.
And I'm glad Trump pinned him on it. One other quick thing that came out that I've been waiting to come out for the longest, because the media has really clamped down on this as far as it being able to be expressed, and that was when they got into an exchange over separating kids from their families and the cages. President Trump says, hey, the Obama administration, they're the ones who built the cages.
They built cages. They used to say, I built the cages. And then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages. And they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built in 2014.
What he's talking about there is that the media and the left attempted to smear Donald Trump by saying kids in cages.
Right.
And they still do this. They still, to this day,
Yes.
Cleve, they use the line kids in cages.
Right.
And they use that picture as an example. Come to find out that the media used a picture from 2014 to show that. So this is what they did is they ignored all the details of the policy and exactly what's happening. They boiled it down to kids in cages, and then they lied to show that Trump was doing that. It was a lie.
Yes. And it was constructed, and now he's shown it was a lie, and that they deliberately created it for that narrative.
All they think about is the brief little line that the media feeds them, which is Trump separates children from their parents and puts the kids in cages.
And they ran with that the whole time.
I'll be interested to see how the polls shake out. But then again, the polls, Cleve, they're weird, man.
Yeah, the polls are where they were in 2016, though, and for me, that's good news. I like that. All right, that's David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker. And as always, David, folks can catch Mere Conservatism again.
Yeah, you can get it on Apple Podcasts. Mm-hmm. You can get it on YouTube and Facebook. And
your choice. Either way, we'd love to hear it. In the meantime, have a great day, and don't give up the fight.